Hi, welcome to One for the Road, where we navigate sobriety, recovery, and life in general. Tune in as we share our experience and opinions while answering any questions you may have. My name's Marissa, and this is my co-host, Judy.
Hello.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, comment, get your notification, do all that stuff. We are on episode 2 of our 3-part series on relationships. Hashtag JFT guy. He's going to be on our channel. We're going to do an interview with him. He's a gentleman from Narcotics Anonymous. And we are going to go on his show and do like a reading kind of thing. He wants us to do like a reading. And we are just going to give our opinions on what we read because
we just can share our opinions.
That's all we do is give our opinions.
We're
so go over there and check him out. He does a really nice job. And okay, so Judy, today, for our second part of our series, we're gonna talk about
family.
And and I'm gonna put this out like right away. Like, if anybody has incredibly rough relationships with their family, please like comment, reach out to us, because I would love to hear how you manage that in recovery.
Yeah.
Because I think I can speak for both of us when we say, like, not that we have perfect families, but we both, for once, we share that we have supportive families
and challenges, though.
Also challenges. But there are some people out there, they're getting sober in a family full of addicts, and how do you manage that? We don't have that experience. That's something that I would like to branch off and maybe
try to help those people. Yeah.
So if anybody has that kind of dynamic and they would be willing to share their experience with that and how they, have relationships with them, and stuff like that, not to tell all of our stories, but I would love to hear about that. We're always looking for people to come on the show and tell us, about themselves. So
and give us information, right? Because wiring minds, we need tools.
I want to know for sure. So let's talk about family.
Okay. So I'm gonna go.
Dad, brothers, sisters, aunts,
So for sure.
Kids.
So my family. So here's the thing. My parents have both passed. They were both, my dad was way young, in his 50s. And my mom just passed a year ago in January. Super supportive. My father was not alive to see me get sober. However, my dad didn't think there was anything wrong with me, so there's that. So, for sure. Daddy's girl. I have 4 adult children, also super supportive. I don't think that any of them, could be happier that I'm in recovery. They benefit from that, sound advice, sober mind, emotionally sober for the most part.
Money. You got that extra money.
Well, you're right, for sure.
I got parents.
when it's not going to drugs, it's got to go somewhere, right? And kids are more than happy, but here's the thing, and that's not to say that I was in any way neglectful of my children. And that's not just, a story I tell myself. The truth of the matter is that, I'd like to use excuses when I was drinking to defend my children for piss poor behavior. You know what I mean? And rock the boat and rile and stir the pot. And so that those things don't happen today. More often than not, I'm the voice of reason when they want to go off the rails. And that's the beauty of that kind of thing. I have a sister, she's married, and I have a niece and a nephew, and I love them to pieces, and I'm the funny one, and that's cute. But everybody's super supportive. So and I have a couple aunts, and that's really it. My family is really dwindled. That circle is small, just like my friend circle, and I'm okay with that. For me, I'm also a firm believer in that some of my friends are family, that I get to choose today. When I was drinking, the friends I chose, I thought were family. Sometimes I was proven wrong. The truth of the matter is though, is that they are very, very supportive. The challenge though, is when I know things should be different, right? And when people ask my opinion and not just sharing my opinion on things, but telling them how to do it and what needs to be done, right? Because I mean, here's the thing, the people that I have the most contact with are my 4 adult children,
Sure.
and it's hard for me to take off that mom hat and and take a step back and not get involved if I'm not asked, and do those
Sure.
things. So those things are challenging for me, and I don't think that might, maybe that's not a unique thing to recovery, or sober parents. However, I find it super challenging, and I know that I was talking with you earlier, and between my daughter and my second oldest son, I was like, I did not fix, manage, and control. I simply made suggestions, like I totally went on the record, right, to clarify my behaviors and the things that I did, you know,
Sure.
and I had to think long and hard. Are you really manipulating the situation? And I think probably to a certain extent I did, but I took my hands off the wheel, right?
Yeah.
And let people figure out their lives. I think that it's super hard when it comes to family, there's a lot of guilt and shame that goes along with my behavior.
Yeah.
Prior to getting sober, and hell, even in sobriety, right? Because I'm not a perfect person, that I can have certain feelings or say certain things that aren't whatever. And those are the closest people to you, right? Like, I think that, my kids are the closest people to me. And so, it's easy to forget who I'm striving to be and fall back into that comfort zone of, let me tell you a thing or two, So I think that it's always a challenge. You don't get to pick your family unless it's, like I said, making those friends your family. But there's a certain thing that those ties that bind, that even though I don't disagree, even though I could disagree with them, those are the people that I'm going to the mat for.
Yeah.
Those are the ones, those are the people that I will die on that hill, you know, for them. That's for sure. And so, you know, I don't know if I have a lot to say on that, except that they've been super supportive throughout my entire life. Um, you know, I will say that nobody's ever said, Jude, you need to go get help. you know, that was one of those things. But, maybe they didn't see what I felt,
Yeah.
and so,
Yeah.
and that's great, right? I think that says something about, I kept them away from that sort of that poison that was in me, not just the drugs
Yeah.
and alcohol, but that poison that I would leak out for the rest of the world to see. So, yeah, I'd like to think that our relationships are a lot better, and that's based on my behavior today.
Yeah.
It's based on my behavior. And so I find the challenge is to not have hurt feelings sometimes, as much as I'm able to hurt them, boy, they're able to hurt me back. And so I think trying to be in that place of neutrality, knowing that
Yeah.
everybody is an adult and, letting them do their thing, regardless of what the situation, the consequences will be. I'll just be there to help in the end. I think that's where I'm at. So what do you got?
Wha- No, I share a similar experience with, incredibly supportive family, right? Like when it was time to go to rehab, I was driven by my dad, you know what I mean? My family came to visit me, and that is not what, that I
Yeah.
didn't see a lot of that in treatment. Um and I'm really grateful for that, because I remember being like, you know, my family would have to like break up the time, right? Because my sister and my brother-in-law wanted to come and see me, and my parents came to see me. And, like I just had, like a line out the door, right? Like I, I had the support, right? Like I needed to get well, and they, took me to a nice rehab, and they came to visit me, and my brother-in-law would give me money for candy and cigarettes. And like they would call, and my sister would bring board games out, and we would just sit and we would talk. And and everybody knew I had a problem before I knew I had a problem. And they were when the moment came, like they were there when I said I needed help. Like they were like, what do we
Thank
got to do?
God.
Right. Like
Yeah.
let's get it done. And when I left rehab, right, like I had to go to IOP, and my brother-in-law would drive me to IOP because I didn't have a license. And And I really just had a lot of support. My parents let me come live back at home. Like, they fed me, like I had I had a world of support, right? Like
Yeah.
anything that I needed, it was there, you know, provided I stayed sober, right? And so I had a really strong support system, and anytime I've ever needed anything, people in my family have always been there for me, and it's hard because on one hand, on one hand, right, they're there. On the other hand, there's some other stuff. There's some other stuff, I struggle with my parents. I struggle with the way I was brought up. I struggle with probably my own expectations of who I wish they were,
Mm,
who I think they should be, and
get it.
that's my stuff, right?
Yeah.
But I will tell you that moving past those things um, are challenging in my recovery. Getting to a place where I can look at, my parents, more importantly, as human beings and fallible people, and not put them on this pedestal, not put them under a microscope, right?
Mm,
Like not do all that stuff. Realize they're people just doing the best that they can. Those things can be really hard for me. There's wounds there,
sure.
for one reason or the other, and I kind of feel like a sham even having this podcast because I go to therapy, right? And I got to tell you, a lot of the therapy is talking about those mommy and daddy wounds because, there weren't enough hugs as a kid and there weren't enough I love yous and the older I've gotten and I've learned about like my own love languages and stuff like that, I feel like there was a disconnect and I was raised by parents that were just trying to survive with three young kids, being really young themselves, trying to survive with three young kids and and things get overlooked, right? People,
Yeah.
kids get overlooked, needs get overlooked. And, don't get me wrong. Like I had food in my stomach, roof over my head, clothes on my back, like running water, which is more than I can say for a lot of people. I've met a lot of people in recovery that come in and they have these addictions because they've had rough upbringings, and
Sure.
parents not around. And I didn't have that, so I kind of felt unworthy to even be um to even have like complaints or have these like emotional wounds or anything, when it came to the family aspect, because I didn't have it that bad. You know what I mean? Like I didn't have it and I would almost invalidate my own feelings,
Sure. Yeah.
and I've learned that relationships are hard.
Yeah. And,
I
and
learned that. Go ahead.
that invalidating your own feelings though, man, like that's always the ticket. And I think that, and I hear it a lot and I've heard it a lot in recovery, like that comparing, right? Like, and for sure people have it worse then. And I get that, right? Material stuff. But if there's something that's lacking that my inside needs, right? Especially as a small kid, I think that those are the things like who am I to invalidate myself? Right.
Sure.
And I'm saying that to you. I'm not saying that
Right.
to me,
Yeah.
right. And so I think that that's the thing. And so whatever the procuring cause was for, drug and alcohol abuse, I think when it's all said and done, I think it's great. And I think that therapy is another one of those tools that we can find in recovery, right? To
Absolutely.
figure out some stuff and, because we have tools, right? Depending on what recovery program you're in, there's tools that you can use in order to get down to that deep, dark stuff inside of you. But the getting over it sometimes of things that happened to you,
Yeah.
right? I can forgive a lot of things, but if it's going to keep popping up for me, and I find that a lot of the times it's family stuff,
Yeah. Well, the resentments are still there, like for me,
yeah,
there was and I can't afford to like harbor all that anger and stuff so I need to do something with that. Right. And
yeah,
for me, that's been one of the tools that's helped me stay sober, right? Like go to therapy, right? Like let's talk about this, and I have to be honest when I say like I don't have much of a relationship with either of my parents currently because I'm working through some of my stuff, right? It's not their fault, right? They may never change. They may
Right.
never be any different than they are right now, but I have to change my mindset, right? Like I have to stop putting them, in this position, and that's where the family relationships become hard for me, and of course, like I've got two older siblings, right? And sibling rivalry, right? Like my sister's perfect. This is how I've perceived it. This
Sure.
is how
Right.
a sick mind, has perceived, my older sister who's worked her ass off her entire life has not just she is just one track mind, right? Like these are her goals and she does them and she doesn't take no for an answer and she's amazing. She's amazing and I wish I was more like her.
You kind of
She's
are.
she's so
You
incredible.
kind of
She
are.
really is. She's so incredible. But in my eyes, in my disease, I thought, well, she's just perfect and life just works out for her,
It's like
I'm
it
an
just
asshole.
happens.
Right.
Sure.
My brother, he's the only boy, he's mom's favorite, he's the golden child, and I can find myself like labeling these people in my family and then like not wanting to have the relationship based on my own sick perception, like my sister's not any more special than I am in anybody's eyes. My sister just has taken a different path, right? She's just a different person. My mom used to say, you guys are all so different, and I'm like, well, if I'm not the golden child and the athlete and I'm not the perfect, goody two shoes, straight A, high honor society kid, then who the fuck am I? You know what I mean? Well, I'm also the funny one.
Right. For
I'm the
sure.
one,
Right.
I'm the one that, that rides the motorcycle, does the tattoo things, does all the, like
You're living life. You're the living life. Right.
I'm out here, not having kids right away, not
Podcasting.
just podcast, right? Exactly.
You're
Like,
the daredevil.
yeah. And so, but it's hard to find my place in that. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's hard to find my place and it's hard to family's just hard.
It is hard. And I think, you said something about the expectation, right? And that's sort of what it is. And I think because we grow up with these people, sisters, brothers, parents, right? Those are the first people that we put expectations on, right?
Sure.
Because we're not out in the real world yet. We're just small children. And so we have an expectation, whatever it might be, whether it's reasonable or not. It's,
Right.
A child's mind at that point. And so, having those expectations and then not having them met, those were probably our first encounters with disappointment,
Sure.
and I think it's hard. And then even as a parent in looking at your children, when they're first born and you're like, all of these great things for these kids and, the expectations I put on them before they could even speak, like they could barely take a bottle and I have these expectations, but I will tell you, and you said about, not really having a relationship with your parents now, there was a time when even my daughter, who's the youngest, again, adult children, there was a time when she was an adult, a younger adult, younger than she is, I had to take a break for peace of mind and for my own sanity and sobriety, right? Like I had to put her on pay no mind because it was constantly like this,
Right.
that we could not have a conversation, whether it was her expectation or mine, or the way I said something or the way she said something. It was just not vibing. There was no way we could get through a 5-minute conversation without screaming and being the adult, right? My only recourse at that time was to like, I can't talk to you. Can't talk to you.
And that's important in any relationship.
Right.
It's toxic, right? If every time I have a conversation with you, and we talked about it in the friendship episode too, right? Like if I walk away from you feeling like, or if I notice that I'm short with you and rude and not my best self, those are all those warning signs for me that like maybe this and not forever, but not right now,
Right.
and I've noticed that. And so there's had to be pull away, right? Because I need to learn something or they need to learn something, and I heard a lot of people say, well, you'll regret that. You'll regret that. Well, I'll probably regret telling my own mother to fuck off more than I'm going to regret not saying
Missing
fuck
a
off.
couple
You know what I mean?
Thanksgivings
Right.
for sure. Right.
Right.
Well, and isn't that the beauty? I mean, and that, and I don't think I was one of those people that said you'll regret it. I think that I brought some
Sure.
hope to the table because, it's easy to say that people of a certain age won't change, right? Because boy, I would love to use that as an excuse. I'm a certain age and I'm kind of set in my ways. But the truth of the matter is that there's beauty in that, and the thing is that my daughter and I are now, I talk to her every day and we don't even just talk on the phone. Like it's, duo. Like, I mean, even if I'm not seeing her face because we both have each other in another room, it's like we're together. And that's how that evolved, right? There was something I needed to learn. Whether or not she learned anything was irrelevant. I needed to learn how to deal with my family in a different way. And so that's what I do now, right? I take my hands off the wheel. I can just hold space when things aren't going well in that, almost 23-year-old world, right? And things aren't, when you're 23, again, your shoelace breaks, the sky's falling, right? So whatever, and so I had to learn how to do that stuff, and it worked, so there's hope. I think that's it doesn't always have to be an all or nothing. There's a lot of gray areas when it comes to family and what we're willing to do for that, right?
Yeah, but I think just down to the core, right? Like we're all people, and I
Right.
have to remember that, like, if I would hold a certain standard for my friends, I should hold a certain standard for my family also, like if it's a toxic situation. And
Sure.
for me today, like I have to be so careful because I struggle with this, this alcoholism, because my coping skills can be so extreme when my feelings are hurt. I have to be careful, right? Like if every time I'm around you, I'm in an emotional upheaval, you're a danger for me.
For sure. And your
being a
life's
recovering
at risk.
alcohol-
And that's a key.
Right.
It's
And
your
so
life.
if it comes down to me or you, I'm picking me, and I'm missing Thanksgiving. I'm missing Easter. I'm missing whatever I need to miss until I learn that skill set, right?
Sure.
Because I'm no longer of the mind that you need to change, even if I am of the mind that you need to change.
Right.
I'm of the mindset that I need to adjust, right? Like I need to be able to adjust so that there's not a huge emotional upset. What is it about you that brings something out in me? And then I need to work on that if I think that we could, if I need to have a relationship with you, and
Right.
and I need to be able to trust you, and I need to be able to respect you, and just because you're my mother and you're going to love me no matter what doesn't mean that I get to be a fucking asshole to you.
Right.
Just because you're my dad doesn't, that doesn't give me the right to be a jerk, and I had someone say, like, you could spit in your mom's face and she would still forgive you and she would still love you. And that's just how parents are. And, and I believe that, but when I get around certain people and I start acting a fool, like, and that's not good. Nobody wants to, you don't want to be in a romantic relationship with someone like that. Your family doesn't need that bullshit, and your friends don't need, like
Right.
that would, so it all comes down to that. And, that's hard. Like there's still some standards. Just because you're my mother, just because you're my sister, just because you're my dad doesn't give you the right to treat me anyway.
Right.
Right. And just because I'm your sister, your daughter, your, whatever, doesn't give me the right to treat you anyway.
Exactly. No, and it's true, right? And I think that that's where we're at. Like we do this thing in recovery where we learn about ourselves and we're always adjusting ourselves, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean doormat. There's, it's a healthy boundary, right? Like if
Sure.
you want to use those kinds of technical terms, and I consider them technical, right? Because I need to learn about me, right? And what, like you said it, what about you sets me off, and how can I now adjust my sail, right? To show up and not be affected.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and sometimes my sail is set. I can't go there. Right. I can't go there yet. Maybe in a year from now. Right. Maybe if I look at the situation and, I've realized that I can do anything I want in recovery, right? I can deal with anyone I want in recovery. I just need to find the proper tool to do that. You know what I mean? Even if it's mouth stay shut, right? Like love, patience, tolerance, like I can do those things. It's just, there's something about with family though, that makes it 10 times harder. it is easier to be nice, to be patient, loving, tolerant to the stranger on the street than it is your own family. And that it's terrible.
Well, and it is terrible. But again, I think it goes back to those are the people that we had those unknown expectations when we were small, right? And those expectations that we didn't know weren't being met. Those are things we couldn't articulate. Those are the people. Those were the people when we were very small to a certain age, right? Till we start to branch out. Those are the people, right? They taught us how to be us a little bit,
Sure.
And so, I think that's why they're the biggest challenge sometimes, right? They also know us probably the best or think that they do.
Think that they do,
They
right?
think that they do.
I catch a lot of, people remembering, we were talking about it earlier, right? But that's the thing we were talking about earlier. You were talking about your kids, and I hope I'm not overstepping, but like, your son remembered your daughter in a certain time frame.
Yeah.
And that's what I find a lot like within my own family. I also find that when around certain people in my family, I revert back.
Sure.
Which is like, what's that about? You know what I mean? Like I could go months and be really good. And then all of a sudden, I get around certain people and I revert back, and I got to ask my therapist about that. You know what I mean?
Well,
so I have to look out for that stuff.
Well, and that's like we were saying, one son was, remembering daughter between the ages of like 12 and 16,
Yeah.
Listen, I'm not here to tell her story, but it wasn't pretty. Right. But, and so then that's the thing, like, that's the beauty of for the readjustment of her and our relationship that, I get to now give them new information and, and then being sober and using these tools and using them on them. Right. And they don't know. So trying to go in with open-minded, right? We just did an episode on being open-minded, forget what you know. Right. And go in and
think
Yeah. And go in and pretend like you're just meeting for the first time. Yeah. Right. And so that's the beauty of being in this position today. Right. And so, and here's the thing, it all went well. And the other part that I love the best about it is that it went well without me. You know what I mean? I didn't have to put my stamp on it. I just didn't, which is unusual. This is the kind of thing that 5 years ago, I would have been all over, man. I would have been multiple phone calls, and I would have needed a drink.
Making it worse.
Fuck yeah. And I would have needed a drink at the end of the day. Right. Yeah. And here I am doing a podcast at the end of the day, and it all worked out okay.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Here's the deal. Like anyone we spend time around, family, friends, romantic, anything, for people like us that are struggling with or dealing, have to deal with the recovery issue and the bigger stuff, if someone's a trigger for you, get the fuck out of there. Cause it's not worth drinking over your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, your aunt, your uncle, whatever. Nobody's worth drinking over, and I think that is like the biggest takeaway, and all the other stuff, we build on that. And then there's therapy, and there's tons of tools out there to like work through that. Some family needs to be completely cut out, and I don't know about that, but if anyone's listening and they have like, if they just have like some really crazy family, I would love to hear about it, because I'm in this position, and I think you are too, like, even though there's stuff, right, even though there's some like, rough stuff there, there's still a deep sense of gratitude that like when my ass has been on fire, like someone has been there. And I know that not everybody has that, and this is somewhere where we just don't differ. And that's kind of cool.
That's kind of cool. Yeah.
Good for us. But that's not always the norm. And so if anybody else wants to come on and share their experience with, just to be a resource for other people, just to,
what did you do?
Yeah. How do you navigate those things? We would love to have people on that show and let us know about that. But
or just want some support from us.
Absolutely. Talk about your crazy family, man.
Right.
We all
get We'll co-sign some shit for a minute.
Crazy in one way or the other. But don't forget to like, subscribe, share, comment, notify, hashtag JFT guy. We're gonna be talking to him. We're gonna be doing our last last part or third
Romantic
part.
relationships.
Woo.
Woo.
Which yeah, you know whatever.
Yeah.
So keep coming back. That's all for today. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Be sure to hit the notification button so you know when new posts are coming up. Keep coming back.